All right, so we'll get started this month in our native garden. It is July already, which I'm having trouble believing. Okay, summer is going by really quickly. And um, I am, uh, so this presentation is hosted by St. Louis Wild Ones and is somewhat based on the Wildflower Garden Planner, which is a book that I wrote. And it is available on YouTube later. So you can go and look at past months. And it is open to the live versions, open to Wild Ones members, but anyone can watch it later on YouTube. And so today we're going to talk about July, what you should do in your garden for July. And this is a native hydrangea here. So you can see that instead of having the disc flowers that are the ones that are really showy, it's just the central flowers, which are smaller, but that's what the bees like. So the native hydrangeas attract more insects. And today I am at Terry's house here, and she's going to be joining my presentation some. Terry and I both worked at Shawnee Nature Reserve together and got up to all sorts of shenanigans.
Collecting trips.
Yes, collecting trips, that's what we call them. So this month, we're going to talk about summer haircuts. Brenda's going to talk about the Wild Ones hike coming up. Terry and I are going to talk about seed collecting this month. We're going to go over some of the summer plant problems that you can have with your plants. We'll talk about rain barrels, and I'll show you the 200-gallon rain barrel I just installed. This month, I'm suggesting that you think about waterfalls and streams for inspiration. And not today, it's pouring rain, but in general, in July, you need to water a little bit, not too much. And then Terry is going to demonstrate some cut flowers using native plants to do bouquets, which she's very good at. And so here we have lots of text about a summer haircut. So we talked about spring haircuts earlier, and I hope that a lot of you did go and cut some of your plants back. But if you want to do it again, the 4th of July is my date that I normally do the summer haircuts. So if you want to like cut back the top part of the plants, I do a lot of the goldenrods and asters, and in my yard the goldenrods already have flowers on them, so it's too late to cut them back. But a lot of the asters don't have flowers yet, so you need to go and check if there's any bud on there, because if there's a bud and you cut it off, they won't bloom, or they might bloom really late. But it's better to cut them back if they don't have buds yet. And that's for the late flowering plants, so asters. I wrote Joe Pye. My Joe Pye is already blooming, actually. Yeah. Sneezeweed's blooming already. The turtle heads aren't blooming.
No.
So you could cut back your turtle head. Garden phlox is blooming. Some of the goldenrods maybe are not blooming. And I don't know about the ironweed. I didn't check out my ironweed. Yeah. And then some of the grasses you can cut back if they aren't blooming and are getting too tall and might flop over.
And that keeps them from flopping over, and you get more flowers out of it when you cut them back.
Right. Yeah. So in this next picture here, so this is my yard, and the picture on my left, hopefully your left, is from looking from my house out into the yard, and then the other picture is looking from the yard out towards the house. And you can see that I cut things back a lot closer to my house, and then I let it go a little bit more wild further from the house. And also, if you look at the bee balm back in there, there's a little purple line right here, starting here and going up. So you can see I kind of cut it as short as I could close to the path and let it grow to its full height over here by the fence. So you end up with this line of plants. So you get lots of blooms that you can see. So go find if you can find something to cut back. Although this year is so early, it might already be too late for most things to be cut back. And speaking of tall plants, Brenda is going to be taking another group of wild ones hiking. And I went on that first spring trip and we had a lot of fun. And I actually ran into someone last weekend who said that they went on that spring trip and that they really remembered that. And so she's taking people to Quiver River, and Renee sent me some photos from Quiver River here, so I hope you can see these two beautiful photos. And Brenda, do you want to come on and answer any questions anybody has?
Sure. I haven't been to Quiver River in a long time, but Renee was there just a little over a week ago and took some pictures. She said that it's going to be beautiful, so we're going to walk out on the prairie and hopefully see a lot of blazing stars, some different milkweeds, a lot of monarda. And she said the butterflies and hummingbird moths are plentiful.
On that picture with the butterfly milkweed, there's a million swallowtails on that milkweed right there, it looks like.
They love that plant.
Yeah, so for me, I haven't been to Quiver River in well over a decade. So it'll be fun to go out and relearn the park.
But you're not going to get everyone lost?
I hope not. No. Renee will be leading the hikes, and she has been there recently since I haven't been there in over a decade. But she said it's a mowed trail through the prairie, and we'll probably go partway out into the prairie and then turn around, walk back, although it is a 3-mile hike. If someone wants to go and do the full 3 miles, they can.
So, and to sign up, they go onto the Wild One site and go to dig in and then sign up there, right?
Yes, go to Bring It Home, dig in, and then you actually sign up as a volunteer because unfortunately that's the only system we have to sign people up is through our volunteer system.
All right. Are there any questions out there? I don't see any. All right, well, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I hope a lot of people will join us.
Yeah. All right, so seeds to collect this month. Terry's going to help me with this because she did a bit of seed collecting in her.
Just a bit,
Right.
just a bit.
And so the first thing I wanted to talk to about this was the wild indigos. Like I get a lot of questions about like when to collect them, like if they're dark or do they need to kind of start to split open or do they need to rattle? Like,
They need to rattle.
yeah, but they don't, you don't want to wait all the way till they split open.
No. And then there's millions of in there too.
Yeah.
So you gotta get them. The insects will eat all the seeds and you won't get into that.
Whenever I'm cleaning Baptisia, there's all these like weevils crawling out of it. So
And what we used to do is we'd take the bacteria and step on them and crush them all up. And then you put them out in the sun, and those weevils hate the sun, and they would literally crawl and exit out of the box of seeds. That's really the best way to do it.
yeah, I was doing that earlier with my columbine seeds because there were so many little bugs in there, little black beetles, and the beetles look just the same as the seeds. But I put them out in the sun, and all the beetles took off.
And they don't like the sun.
Yeah. And then so for indigo, there's a lot of different methods for trying to propagate indigo, the wild indigo, and like because it's a legume, sometimes the legumes you boil and some you scratch, and
Well, if you're going to grow them before it's their natural time to come up, we would grow them in the greenhouse. And so we wanted them to germinate, and so they didn't not go through the winter outside. So we would put them in pour boiling water over them and leave them there for 24 hours. And we could sow them in the greenhouse, and they would come up really good. So if you're just going to sow them out in the field, you don't need to do that. But if you're wanting them to come up earlier, that's something that you probably need to do.
Yeah. So sow them out directly into the field.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was looking, so the purple prairie, no, not purple prairie clover. Purple prairie clover I actually really enjoy collecting because it gets like it's a brown cone and you just rub it between your fingers and the whole thing just turns into seeds.
I love plants like that.
You know, no cleaning involved.
Right. I'm trying to think of. And the bradbury bee balm, the seeds are really, really tiny. And the best way that you can do that when they're ripe is you just take a bag and shake them into the bag, and the seeds will fall right out of there. And then once again, you don't even have to clean them because you already have them cleaned in the bag.
Yeah. Instead of a bag, I use a white 5-gallon or
That's
5-gallon bucket because then I can see the seeds falling in. But I just tip the plant over into the bucket.
It's so easy. They're not all that easy. We
Hey,
like the easy one.
I'm going to jump in. Terry, could you lean a little closer to the
Oh, I'm
computer?
sorry.
Your voice is a little muffled.
Okay.
Like or leave it.
All right.
All right. Indian pink, that's one of your favorites. I know that one.
Indian pink. Boy, that is a funny one. That one, you almost have to collect that like every day because the seeds will ripen. You can go out and collect in the morning and then they'll ripen again in the afternoon. So that's something that you really need to keep an eye on and do that on a daily basis. Sometimes morning and afternoon actually to get all of them.
Yeah. Spiderworts. Those are exploders.
Spider yeah, you need to get them before. They're one of those plants that you have to collect before all of them are ripe. You have to collect them when they're partially ripe. Otherwise, you're gonna miss them because they just go everywhere.
Usually there's still even some blooms on there.
Yeah,
Right.
yep, you have to pick them even when they're blooming a little bit, but they'll still germinate. And also the purple coneflower, that's another one. You have to collect them. Uh, What we used to do is if the petals were brown on the seed head, to go ahead and collect them, and they would still germinate. If you wait too long, the goldfinches will have them gone, and you will not get any seed. So the best time to collect them is when the flower petals turn brown, and go ahead and collect them, and otherwise you won't get anything.
Yeah. My
Terry,
purple coneflower.
lean back a little again, Terry.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry about that.
So my purple coneflower, I don't even bother collecting the seeds though because they propagate themselves just fine. And I just go dig up the little ones around the yard.
Mine too. I have tons of them out there.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about here?
I can't think of anything.
All right. If you have any other questions, ask Terry. Let's see if you have any questions actually right now about any plants that they're collecting right now.
I don't see any in the chat.
All right. We'll move on to the killer. This is the killer common milkweed. So you see this little bee here. This poor bumblebee has been trapped by the milkweed and has perished. But so the milkweed flowers have these holes, like you can see these deep holes in the flower, and sometimes the bees get their foot stuck down the hole, and because their feet have all these little barbs on them, that you can see the barbs, sometimes the barbs will get stuck in there, and the bee is not strong enough to pull their foot back out.
It's really sad.
It's really sad, and I don't. So I know that plant is trying to get the bee to get their foot down in there and then pull out the pollen. But sometimes the bee isn't quite strong enough. And they die with their foot stuck in a flower.
I guess that isn't a terrible way to die.
Yeah. And then also in the bottom right here, I wanted to show about the milkweed seed pod, how they're still green now. Don't collect them when they're green. You need to wait till they're brown and they start to split, and then it's time to collect them.
Well, the best way that you can do that with all the milkweed seeds is you squeeze them slightly. They split open and the seeds are brown, then you know it's time to collect them. Otherwise, just leave them there. It's too soon. They're still white inside. They're not ready.
And then the far left picture is the flower bud before it opened here. So those are not seeds. That's pre-flower. So you guys should all go out and look at your milkweed flowers and see if they've killed any bees recently. See what looks
Kathy,
bad.
Kathy commented that she hasn't seen a bumblebee get stuck, but she's seen honeybees get stuck on there.
Oh,
Yeah, I think that it's the bigger bees that are the ones that pull the pollen out. So this bee must just not have been strong enough for some reason. But I memorialized him in this PowerPoint presentation.
poor bee.
The other bees were just hanging all around the flower. They weren't learning from that bee's demise that it was a danger area. All right, we're going to go through a couple sad topics here. So powdery mildew is our next sad topic. So that is this white stuff that you get on your, oops, back one. This white stuff that you get on your leaf, and powdery mildew is actually a fungus that is on there. And the best ways I know to get rid of powdery mildew is to not water during the evening. No, not water the leaves. That's what you don't try not to water the leaves. Try to water just the roots. And then sometimes thinning out your plants so that they can get a little bit more breeze and more sun will help the plants not get powdery mildew. But usually powdery mildew is not deadly
Right.
to the plant, just ugly.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
And this picture is of Monarda bradforiana here, I think. But I also see it on phlox a lot.
Flocks a lot, yes.
Yeah. And anyway, it's on several things. So, and then another thing that afflicts the phlox is the phlox bug. And this thing lives in the root, gets into the stems, but then it goes down into the roots over the winter. So taking your phlox material and disposing of it over the winter can help prevent this bug from growing from year to year.
Does it grow on all the flocks? I mean, does it infect them all?
Was supposed to, most of the native phlox are supposed to be more resistant to it, but I still see it in big patches of native
Okay.
phlox. I think the bigger your patch of phlox, the more likely you are to have it because you have more food for these little bugs.
That makes sense.
And they're little orange bugs. Bigger than an aphid though. And then master yellows. Sorry, the text got so tiny here, but so basically aster yellows is a bacteria that is given to your plant from a leafhopper, like the tick diseases you can get, except it's a leafhopper disease straight
And they're so
after.
cute. That's too bad.
And this is something you need to remove your plant totally, like dig it up and dispose of it. Like don't stick it in your compost unless you have a real functioning compost system. But if it's just a yard waste pile like mine is, the after yellows shouldn't go in there. I do have a rolling composter also, so I stick it in that rolling composter, or else I burn it in my fireplace. But the asters look really weird and kind of cool when they have it, but something that you want to get rid of.
But also purple coneflowers can get that.
Yeah, well, this is a purple
Okay.
coneflower in the photo, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
after yellow,
terrible.
and then the coneflowers get it.
Do you know what other flowers it does that too? I know
I mostly see it on purple
the,
coneflower.
me too, that's what I see the most.
And I've seen it on the black-eyed Susans too.
No, I'm not seeing it.
And then this is the disease we're all suffering from right now is cicadas. It's not really a disease, but so if you're seeing like weird little bunches of dead leaves all over your trees, especially your fruit trees, your oaks, I've seen it on witch hazel, and there's just these little bunches of dead leaves. That's the cicadas. And you don't need to do anything about it, because the damage is already done. But the cicadas went and they tried to lay an egg in that stem there, and that killed that branch. But the tree will be fine.
And they're gone.
And the cicadas, well, they're not gone.
They're not all gone.
They're
So
back
next year,
underground again
right,
for
right.
another 12 years.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about them for a while.
Yeah. But I remember 12 years ago, the last time this batch of cicadas came, they really hit my plum trees really hard. But this year, my plums are much
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 happier.
bigger and
Good.
therefore did not get as much devastation. And then here's a pretty picture just because that was depressing topic right there. So here's some blazing stars that the butterflies love, and they're just so cute and I love them. Okay, so now we're gonna, the word of the day is don't let your annual stupid weeds make seeds if you can. Like I've been pulling up a whole bunch of Asiatic dayflower and smartweed and those Spanish needles.
Awesome. I have nasty grass that you cannot pull out, that you have to dig out. So I've been spending hours a day digging this horrible grass out of my prairie garden.
Yeah. Well, and if you can't, like if it's too hot to dig it up and the ground's too dry though, just cut this, make sure it doesn't make any seeds though, at least.
If I cut the seeds all back by tomorrow, there's all seeds on them again. So it's a battle.
We're encouraging people, not discouraging people.
It's a battle. We got to keep going.
All right. Yes. Onward. Kill the weeds. Dust to the non-native weeds. And so this is a new invasive species here that I haven't talked about yet, but this is the Japanese hops, which I really don't like. They have these little thorny things on their stems, and they make me itch.
They will
So,
rip the skin off your arms.
yeah, I end up with like scars from
Me
it
too.
one time. And so wear gloves when you combat the Japanese hops, and don't let it grow on your fence, or a lot of times it comes like down the ditch. It comes out of the ditch, down the creek bed,
Creek beds are
over the fence. So go forth, make sure it doesn't come into your yard,
absolutely.
and go pull it now before it makes seeds.
Wear sleeves.
Long pants. And I don't know about poisoning it. I always just pull it out. It pulls out really
Yeah,
easily.
we've always pulled it out. Yeah, listen, but we had scars.
Oh, this is a lovely photo of my leg. I know that you guys wanted to see that. But so I've got these lovely white socks on. You can see that's my clean skin, and then the rest of my leg is my fake tan, which is really just dirt. And I'm sure the rest of you guys have legs like this too during the summer. And yeah, show off your fake tans. Okay, this is the 200-gallon rain barrel I just installed at one of the gardens that have a Project Clear grant. And so rain barrels are great things to have in the summer because we have these downpours and then it's hot for another week, and you have 200 gallons of free water if you put a rain barrel in. So you can see the downspout coming in at the top here. And then down below, there's a overflow spout for if the rain barrel's full, and then at the bottom there's a spigot so the water can come out. And it's a great thing to put next to your air conditioner so you two unsightly things right together.
You grow plants all
Yeah,
around them.
then plant something in front of it. So if you don't have a rain barrel in your yard and you want one, I would look into the Project Clear grant. And it's a project with the Missouri Sewer District or Midwest Sewer District. Whoever supplies your sewer, if you're in St. Louis, they have money for you to buy rain barrels. So go apply for that grant. And since it has been so hot and periodically very rainy, this month we're going to focus on waterfalls and streams as inspiration. And so here you can see on the left, this is a stream in southern Illinois, which is my inspiration waterfall. I mean, I can dream if I want, right? I want one of those in my backyard. And so I don't know how I would replicate this in my backyard, but I can dream, right?
Chris, you better get on that.
Yeah. And so though I'd like to remind you that when you are finding rocks and gravel for your streams, to make sure that they're not pulling it out of someplace beautiful and selling it to you. Try to find a sustainably sourced material. But I encourage you to go out and find some waterfalls and streams to inspire you to put some sort of water feature in your yard.
And they will refresh you while you're looking at them.
Yeah, well, waterfalls are great for, they put like the positive,
Negative
ions
ions, yeah.
in the air, so they're supposed to be good for you. And then also the sound of running water is good for you. And the birds love it. And the raccoons.
And everything
And
else.
squirrels. And the stray cats. They all love it. Yeah. And Terry was telling me earlier that a water feature or a water gardening could just be putting flowers in a vase of water.
It can be. That was my first conference I went to was about water gardening, and the guy brought out a wine bottle with a plant in it and said, "This is water gardening." Can't argue with that.
Not yet.
Mhm.
So during July and August and September and all year, but right now especially, you need to pay attention to how wet or dry your yard is. Make sure that your bird baths are full of water, that you might have some birds out there that are really thirsty and hot and they need some water. So give them a source of water. Give them some sort of water feature. And then also, even like well-established plants, even 100-year-old trees can benefit from some water during a drought. And when you're watering a tree, you need to water the entire area under the tree, not just the trunk of the tree.
The roots go out so far. I've heard that the roots go out as far as the crown.
Right, the drip line.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of native plants, I don't generally water my yard. Like native plants don't need as much water.
Unless you're just establishing them. If you're just planting them, they need to be cared for like any other garden.
Yes.
Once they get established, they're fine.
The newly planted trees and shrubs should be watered thoroughly once a week. But during droughts, the plants will be happy if you give them some water.
Just like us.
They might not die on you, but they'll be happy.
We like happy plants.
Happy plants are beautiful. Oh, and this was a cute video I took of a water feature, which is a bucket of water with a plant in it. But look who's here. Hopefully this video is working.
Thank you.
Can you see him?
Yes, it's working. He is adorable.
My little gray tree frog
He's very happy.
hiding in my bucket. I was actually redoing the pond, and so I had the pond plants in the buckets, and the frogs moved into the buckets too.
There you go.
So that's where the water was. All right, so now, Katie, Terry, Terry here is going to talk about some of her favorite cut flowers. And I don't know if there's a few off here you want to talk about, or we can talk about what we're going to work with today.
We are gonna have some purple coneflower, some Solomon seal, and some super else again.
The river oats.
River oats, creek oats, whatever. There's just so many things that make nice bouquets.
And you have a button bush.
I even have a button bush, and I really love when people think outside the box. It's like people usually put 3 or 4 things in there, but sometimes an interesting twig or a branch off a tree. There's so many things that you can put in a bouquet to make it even more interesting.
Sometimes even like tying rocks to or sticks to the vase can
Right.
be really cool too.
One of my favorite things is pokeweed when it turns, the berries are all purple. It really looks really cool to take the berries and kind of let them hanging down from the vase. It just adds another layer of texture and beauty to your arrangements.
So here are some pictures so we got the purple coneflower. That's a really good one, and we'll be working with that today. Culver's root is kind of a funny plant because the flowers never go straight. So usually you have to be more inventive with your bouquet to make it not look too crazy. Unless I go for crazy bouquets. So.
I like crazy bouquets too. And also greenery is really important. And I unfortunately did not have any of the little tape that you kind of tape on the vases. If you're going to use a big vase to make, it really helps to put some of that, what do you call that kind of tape? Is it
it's like florist tape?
Florist tape,
yeah.
Like make little squares, and then you can stick your plants in there, and you'll use less plants, and it'll help them stand up straight.
Yeah, it's like a lattice support structure in the vase that she builds. All right, so greenery is so you like the alum root, which we don't have any of that. Palm sedge. I really like palm sedge.
It gives it a beautiful texture. Battlebrush blackgrass and ferns. We use Christmas ferns a lot because they stay green all year round. And they help fill it in and make it look more like a natural arrangement.
Yep. And we were talking about the indigo, the wild indigo seed pods. Those look really good in a bouquet.
Just use your imagination. I mean, it's really, and even in the winter, you can go out and make an incredible arrangement from just dried flowers out in the prairie.
All right, so we're going to go over, Carrie's going to make us a bouquet right now. If any of you guys have any questions, put them in the chat or something. Right? You said it better?
Right. So I have this variegated Solomon seal, which I really love for the texture of it. And also its bending form. I just thought it was really nice to add to a bouquet. And then I also have some Christmas fern here. One of the most important things is to make sure you pull the foliage off, that you don't want the foliage sitting in the water because it'll make the water kind of go bad on it. So I have some Christmas ferns here that I'm sticking in here. I think I have 1 more or 2 more. And that kind of makes the basis from where you stick the flowers in. And so I have purple coneflowers, which I love. That is a plant for all seasons. The butterflies love it. Everything loves this plant, especially me. And they're fragrant. I'm just gonna stick those in there at all different levels. And then I have a button bush. I am fortunate enough, I have a fen on my property. And I have button bush blooming, and I just think they are so interesting. Stick those in there. And then to top it off, we have Besa found a blue lobelia. I really like to have something kind of, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, what am I thinking? American bellflower. That just adds a nice different color.
And so there you go. I mean, it's like took no effort at all, and you have a beautiful bouquet to set on your table.
Can you twirl it around? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
Ta-da.
But I think it's cool that Terry put in all different stages of blooming on the coneflower, so this bouquet will last a little bit longer.
That's one of the things, yeah, you want to get some that aren't all the way in bloom, because that way it might last a week longer in your house if you have some that aren't opened all the way.
And then also
So your audio and video are breaking up.
looks really good with this very good Solomon seal, I think.
Besa,
And tell them what so those
That's
are
what,
good, because then they're
the
gonna
audio
make
and
you some
video
more
are breaking up
ferns.
a bit.
Yeah,
It's come back on now,
I'm
but
sorry.
the last bit of what you said, I believe, was choppy. But it seems good now if you continue
I
on.
was talking about the fern fronds are, I like the brown on the back of them. It's a nice texture.
And those are actually the spores that are going to reproduce and make you more ferns. We used to have people call up and say, "Oh my God, I got these brown things on my ferns," and it's like that's what makes new ferns. Those are spores.
You wanna do another one?
You can get this funny one out.
I wonder if you mute yours, Laura, if that will keep it focused on my window.
I have mine muted now.
Okay.
So I thought it would be fun also to use something really bizarre, like a strange pot to put them in. I mean, you can come up with all kinds of really creative things to use for flower arrangements. We have St. John's wort here and brown-eyed Susan. Another thing I really like for texture is river oats. They really make a nice kind of almost like a mobile or something in your flower arrangements.
It brings out the air movement too.
So you can make an arrangement out of anything and with anything. I just encourage you to use your imagination and no telling what cool thing you might come up with, something that nobody's ever seen because you use your own imagination. These are
Philadelphia fleabane.
Philadelphia fleabane. They're almost like a baby's breath, natural without having to buy baby's breath. They bloom pretty much everywhere in any field. And these brown-eyed Susans at my house, I swear if I didn't mow, I'd have a whole entire field of them. They're so beautiful and prolific. Maybe a couple more of these.
So you use the rule of three or rule of odds, I guess.
Yes, that's one thing I was taught. I didn't know this, but even when you plant your plants, you want to do odd numbers, 3, 5, and 7. For some reason, that makes it look more planned.
Yeah. You're putting like 3 of everything in there.
Pretty much. Yep. Oh, and we even have Queen Anne's lace, and I know that that is not a native, but it is so abundant and it is just everywhere. And the really cool thing about it, you can put them in food color. If you put them in pink food color, they will turn pink. So you can add them to any bouquet, pick your color, what you want to have, and they'll do that for you. There we go.
Yeah, coloring the Queen Anne's lace is a fun science thing to do with your
With
grandkids,
kids,
too.
yeah, they love that stuff.
And make a rainbow of Queen Anne's lace.
It's a gorgeous flower.
And then I wanted to, where is I have a show and tell plant here. It's over here. Ooh. Okay, coming back on here. All right, so show and tell. When I was out collecting flowers, I found this dodder here, which is a saprophytic plant here. So it's the orange part is the dodder, and this is the plant that's being parasitized here. And the dodder has given up on producing its own chlorophyll, and it's actually sticking its root into this plant right here and stealing the chlorophyll out of its host plant. And this is a good time to find it. And sometimes you'll see really big ones, and it looks like someone sprayed silly string all over a field. It looks funny. And so if you go find that in the wild, you can tell everyone about it, and you'll have cool plant facts to know. But I don't see this in residential habitats very often at all. It's usually always in the wild, and usually near like a wet area. I think it must like wet areas.
Well, I'm wet here, so it's happy
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, we're right next to a fen right here.
I
But
read a book about the science of botany called Light Eaters, and they talk about this plant, and they say it can detect the robustness of its host, and so count how many times that it wraps around the host so that it doesn't kill it all the way.
It's amazing.
So more robust hosts, they'll wrap around more often and take more nutrients.
well, this guy's got 5 wraps. What does that say?
I don't know,
Must be
moderately
healthy.
robust. So that's really cool.
All right, so I'm going back to sharing again. Are there any questions for Terry right now about flower arrangements? Hopefully you could hear her enough.
The audio was great during that, and I don't see any questions in the chat.
Okay, so now we're going to go through your favorite part is all the flowers that are blooming this month, or not all of them, but several. So white, we got lots going on this month. So white, we have so rattlesnake master. I didn't photograph. I actually don't put rattlesnake master in my yard because it keeps taking over.
But it would make a good bouquet.
It is so good. Even and dried bouquet.
Dried bouquet,
Beautiful. And the wasps love it. It's a wonderful plant. It's taken over my yard too many times now. And then so also rose mallow. I do have rose mallow in my yard, but I didn't find a good picture. And then also we have Culver's root over here on the left side, which is the one I was talking about being great for a cut flower if you can find any that are growing straight up. Normally mine are growing sideways. Like how the liatris do that too.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm gonna grow anyway but up. And the yarrow here, that's the next one to the right. And then the wild hydrangea is the next one on the right. And then in the far right corner is that annual snow on the mountain.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hard to find in the plant trade, but make some friends in gardening and they'll give you some seeds. And then up here at the top I have the world milkweed,
Yeah.
and that one's white. So you can try introducing those. And pink. So first one on the left here is a hibiscus. And some of them do come out pink. Most of them are white though. But I have a pink one in my yard.
I like the pink.
And then we have a red whiskers, which is clammy weed. That's an annual too.
Butterflies love that plant.
Yeah. And it's very easy to grow from
Yeah.
seeds. And they have seeds right now. So if you have any, go collect the seeds so that you can grow it again in your yard, or else it will grow where you don't want it to next year.
The hummingbird moths love that plant. I
Yeah.
have
so many hummingbird moths on that.
Yeah, Brenda's promising that you'll see a hummingbird moth this weekend if you go with her. She told me that.
All right. Have them here all the time.
And then next we have another little milkweed here with a monarch. Up above we have Joe Pye. And then for pink I have the purple coneflower, even though like they're pink, they're not purple.
Right.
But then, surprise, I also have it for purple. So here's purple coneflower. And then next to the right, it's kind of bluish purple skullcap. And then we have spiderwort. And then a bee balm. And then phlox in the upper right, the garden phlox. And then bottom left is that the long purple poppy mallow. And then also grab that bellflower there. So the blue one. So this is the bellflower. We'll get it right up here. So that's a fun one to have. It's kind of bluish purple. Like the blues. And then also the purple prairie clover. I really love it. It's like a purple with little golden fringe. But they're short. The purple prairie clover like normally are growing like in really rocky, dry
Big
soil.
dry spots, yeah. But it's a treat when you see them.
Yep, the plant of the glade.
Yep.
And red, we have royal catchfly. My royal catchfly is doing really well this year for the first time ever.
Nice. That's a hard one to grow.
Yeah, thought it was dead forever. And then the columbine are still going, even though they started months ago. But I really like columbine because they bloom for forever.
And they multiply.
They do multiply. They're easy to pull out too.
And
And then some yellow. Yeah, bottom left is black-eyed Susan. And then next up above it is Missouri Evening Primrose,
love that one.
which is not to be confused with the biannual primrose, which is also the same
And when you
family, just much taller.
and when you collect the seeds for those in a bag, it sounds like you're carrying potato chips around because the seeds just sound like potato chips in a bag.
I love the seeds on those. They're so cool looking. And then down here, middle, we have the gray-headed coneflower. And then up here, I think this, is that a,
Is that Zizia?
it maybe is a Zizia and maybe it's probably a Zizia. That was what would be blooming right now.
Mhm.
That's Golden Alexander. All right, and we still have some time. Let's play Ask Terry and Besa some questions about your yard game. Find one. Ask. All right, so our next meeting is August 7th at 7 p.m. But we still have time for questions if anyone has questions.
They're probably out shooting fireworks right now.
They're on Zoom, they're not shooting fireworks. So what are their favorite 4th of July fireworks flowers? I saw the red and the blue lobelias blooming today. And there's also a white lobelia too that
Yes, we used to have white lobelias sometimes
Okay.
mixed in with their.
what's that called? It's called like tobacco.
Oh, that's a totally different one. But I have seen the blue one actually be white. Have you seen the white?
Yeah.
It's a
And
blue.
I've seen the blue ones be pink too.
And I've seen the red ones be pink.
I've seen yeah.
They're confused. They
Yeah.
confuse us.
But and then I don't always like if you find a white blue lobelia and then propagate it, they might be blue again. Not necessarily white. They don't
They
breed
like
true.
to keep us all guessing.
Yeah. I think Culver's root looks like a 4th of July flower.
It does.
Kind of explodey.
Well, and
Question.
even the common milkweed.
Now,
we
I don't want
got
to
a
ramble
question.
about 4th of July. Yeah.
Asking if anyone's having trouble with cardinal flowers this year. They said
Having
they're
trouble
started
growing
out
them?
great. Yeah, the cardinal flower. They said they started off great, but died off.
I wonder with all the dry weather if it just didn't get moist enough. The cardinal flower needs water.
They do. They will grow in pure water.
Yeah.
So they probably have not had enough of a drink this year.
And mine are growing just fine. But they're in a ditch. So they get, whenever it rains, they get a lot of water. I don't water them though.
And they are considered a not dependable perennial anyway.
Right.
They're one of those things that you might have a couple really good years with them and then the next year nothing. So there's a lot of plants that just like to keep us guessing. You can't ever figure them out.
I always feel like the cardinal flowers only grow for maybe 3 years and then you have to plant them again.
Reseed them again.
So I always collect my cardinal flower seeds and then throw them out a little bit uphill from where I want my cardinal flower to grow because the seeds always flow downhill a little bit. The seeds are like dust. It's really, you don't need to dig a hole for them. You just sprinkle them on the soil.
It's just amazing to me that those plants, those seeds that are dust, that they're actually a whole entire flower encapsulated in that little piece of dust.
It's a lot of genetics in a seed.
Yep. Let's see if you have any other questions.
Yep. A quiet group.
Yeah, I don't see any more in the chat.
I hope you guys have a safe 4th of July and that it rains a little bit more so that nobody's prairie catches on fire. Always a worry. And we'll see you all next month on August 7th then.
All right, bye.
All right, good night.
Thanks, everyone.